There's a small studio on a Memphis corner where an ordinary delivery boy with a raw voice and a shy demeanor paid just a few dollars to record an acetate and, without knowing it, lit the spark that would make the whole world dance. That moment changed everything. But why him? And who made that crucial connection? If you think you've already heard the full story, hold on tight. There are details that will make you see Elvis in a whole new light. The year was 1953. America was still recovering from the marks of war, and the radio ruled homes, setting the rhythm for a generation that had no idea what was coming next. In the middle of that ordinary landscape, a shy young man from Memphis, dressed simply and with a dreamy gaze, gathered the courage to walk through the door of a small studio on Union Avenue. His name was Elvis Presley, and up to that moment, he was just another Southern boy, working as a delivery driver and dreaming of something bigger than the neighborhood where he lived with his parents. The studio was called Memphis Recording Service, a small, almost hidden place run by Sam Phillips, a determined man who believed that sound could change the world. At the front desk, he was greeted by Marion Keisker, a woman who worked alongside Sam and had a sharp ear for unique talent. When Elvis walked in, at first he just seemed like a curious customer. He said he wanted to record a disc as a gift for his mother. With $4 and visible nervousness, he asked to record two songs he loved, My Happiness and That's When Your Heartaches Begin. Marion pressed the record button, and for the first time, Elvis's voice was captured. It was raw, unfinished, but full of soul. A melodic tone, loaded with feeling, that seemed to come from somewhere between gospel and blues, but with a personal touch, impossible to imitate. When he finished, Elvis went quiet, uncertain. He had no idea that this simple, unpretentious moment would become the seed of what would grow into the greatest phenomenon in popular music. Before he left, Marion wrote a note on his file. Good ballad singer, save this. And she kept his phone number. Years later, she would say that in that instant, she felt something different. That boy wasn't just another singer trying to copy his idols. There was something authentic, something that couldn't be labeled. When she asked, "Who do you sound like?" Elvis answered almost innocently but firmly, "I don't sound like nobody." That phrase would become one of the most symbolic of his career. And what about you? Do you believe it was just talent or destiny that made Marion see something special in that shy young man? Tell us in the comments. Was it luck, intuition, or something greater guiding the beginning of the King's story? After that first recording, Elvis returned to his normal routine. He kept working as a truck driver, getting his hair cut at the same barbershop, and singing on weekends for friends and coworkers. But inside him, a quiet restlessness was growing. He knew he had something special, even if he didn't quite understand what it was. Meanwhile, Marion would occasionally revisit those notes and remember the boy with the unique voice who had walked into the studio. In early 1954, Elvis decided to try again. He went back to the Memphis Recording Service and recorded two more songs, I'll Never Stand in Your Way and It Wouldn't Be the Same Without You. These tracks revealed a more confident singer with better vocal control, though still in a romantic, gentle style. Sam Phillips listened to the recordings, liked them, but didn't hear the sound he was looking for. He put the tapes away, not imagining that months later, that same name would come back to his mind. Elvis's life continued at a slow pace, but destiny was quietly moving. Sam had become obsessed with finding a white man with the feel and intensity of black music. He believed that such a fusion would spark the next great musical revolution. And without realizing it, Marion already held the clue he was looking for: the name of a young white man with a southern drawl and the soul of a bluesman. Meanwhile, Elvis was performing at small gatherings, studying the moves of rhythm and blues artists, and watching how people reacted to music. He absorbed everything like a sponge. He was shy off stage, but something changed when he started singing. He had a natural rhythm, a unique groove. He wasn't technical, but he sang with truth, and that's what captivated people. This first period of Elvis's life is the most decisive, though it seems the quietest. It was when destiny began to align, when an ordinary boy took his first step without realizing the length of the road ahead. The small studio on Union Avenue, which at the time was nothing more than a modest space, would become one of the most important places in music history. And Marion Kaisker, the woman who welcomed that timid young man, would become a key figure in bridging the gap between the unknown and stardom. Before leaving the studio that day in 1953, Elvis held the record he had paid for himself. He looked at it with a mix of pride and doubt, unaware that one day millions of people would line up to hear his voice. That fragile, inexpensive acetate contained the very first recording of what the world would come to know as the birth of a legend. It was the beginning of a journey. No audience, no spotlight, no managers. Just a boy and a voice that, in silence, was already starting to change history. The year 1954 would mark the ultimate turning point in Elvis Presley's life. After 2 tentative recordings and months without any feedback, he kept dreaming, not realizing he was about to experience the moment that would forever change not only his life, but the history of modern music. While Elvis carried on with his simple routine in Memphis, something was quietly stirring inside Sun Records. Sam Phillips, the studio's owner, was desperately searching for a new sound. He believed that the future of music lay in blending country and rhythm and blues, the energy of black singers with the openness of white audiences. His dream was to discover a white boy with a black soul, someone who could break down the racial barriers of the Southern music industry. It was in this context that Marion Kaisker, the woman who had recorded Elvis's first acetate the year before, remembered that name she had written down. She mentioned the young man to Sam, suggesting he might be exactly the kind of different voice he was looking for. Sam, intrigued, asked her to reach out to Elvis for another test session. The invitation was made and the boy accepted right away. When Elvis arrived at the studio in June 1954, he carried the same nervousness and humility as before, but also a burning desire to be heard. Sam brought in 2 local musicians to back him up: Scotty Moore, a talented and disciplined guitarist, and Bill Black, an energetic and playful bassist. The 3 gathered without high expectations. The goal was simply to test a few songs and see if anything happened. During the first rehearsals, Elvis tried singing ballads and traditional country tunes, but nothing seemed to work. Sam listened closely, but didn't feel the spark he was searching for. The sound was correct, but lifeless. Elvis seemed confined, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't truly his. Hours went by, the studio grew hot, and exhaustion crept in. At one point, Sam considered ending the session without results. Then, during a break, something unexpected happened. Elvis, perhaps out of nervousness or pure instinct, started fooling around with his guitar. He began to sing an old blues tune, "That's All Right Mama" by Arthur Crudup. But he didn't sing it like the original. He sped up the tempo, added rhythmic claps, and created a completely new groove. Scotty and Bill, excited, jumped in, and suddenly the entire atmosphere of the studio changed. Sam, who was in another room, heard the sound and rushed in to see what was happening. He asked them to stop and start again from the top. He hit record and let the trio repeat the performance. When it ended, the silence was followed by Sam Phillips's wide smile. He knew he had just heard something completely new. That sound was raw, but it had energy, it had soul. It was the fusion he had been searching for. A white boy singing with the passion and intensity of the blues, but with the lightness and joy of country. In the following days, Sam worked tirelessly to refine the recording. He asked Elvis to return to the studio and try other songs in the same style. That's how Blue Moon of Kentucky was born, a song that had originally been slow and melancholic, but that Elvis transformed into something lively and infectious. The contrast between the 2 tracks revealed the young singer's versatility, an artist capable of uniting musical worlds in a single session.
Scotty Moore would later recall that at that moment, none of them knew exactly what they were creating. To them, it was just a fun experiment. But Sam Phillips had the clarity to realize that sound was unique. It was as if the studio had captured the birth of a new musical language.
After the recording, Sam took the tapes home and spent the entire night listening to them over and over again. Each time the needle touched the disc, his intuition grew stronger. This sound was unlike anything ever made before. The next morning, he decided he had to share it with the world. He contacted his friend Dewey Phillips, one of Memphis's most popular DJs, known for mixing bold styles on his radio show Red, Hot and Blue. But before reaching the airwaves, Sam still wasn't sure if the public would accept it. It was a risky mix in a time when racial segregation was still a harsh reality in the American South. Even so, his instinct spoke louder. He knew the risk was worth it. And what about you? Do you think Elvis's success came from courage, luck, or the perfect meeting between talent and the right moment in history? Leave your opinion below. I want to know how you see this legendary turning point in the King's career. Meanwhile, Elvis still didn't understand the magnitude of what had just happened. To him, it was just a fun recording, a night when he finally relaxed and sang his way. He didn't yet realize that, in that small, hot Memphis studio, the seed of rockabilly had just been planted, the style that would open the doors to modern rock and roll. What began as a simple test turned into a historic discovery. Elvis, Scotty, and Bill had found a sound that followed no rules or labels. It was pure, explosive, and true. And Sam Phillips, by pressing record that night in July 1954, captured the exact moment when American popular music turned a new page. The recording of That's All Right was done, but no one in Sun Records could have imagined what was about to happen. Sam Phillips held the tapes in his hands like dynamite. He knew that sound was different, something radio had never heard before. The mix of country, blues, and youthful energy had a force that defied all categories. It was the beginning of a revolution. Sam spent the night listening to the recording again and again, and the more he listened, the more certain he became that he had finally found what he had been searching for all these years, the sound that would unite worlds divided by color, class, and tradition. The next day, Sam took the record to Dewey Phillips, one of Memphis's most popular DJs. Dewey was charismatic and irreverent, and his show, Red, Hot and Blue, was known for breaking musical boundaries. He played everything from gospel to rhythm and blues, and his audience was a rare mix of young black and white listeners. Sam handed him the tape and said only, "Listen to this." Dewey did and was blown away. There was something in the beat and in that boy's voice that sounded fresh, contagious, and undefinable. It was the soundtrack of a generation that didn't yet know what it wanted, but knew it didn't want more of the same. That same night, Dewey decided to take a chance. He played That's All Right on the air without introducing the singer. Within minutes, the radio's phone lines lit up. The calls flooded in, listeners asking who that singer was and demanding to hear the song again. Dewey played the track over and over, and with each spin, the frenzy grew. The sound felt liberating, unlike anything Memphis had ever heard. Amid the chaos, Dewey called Sam and asked him to bring Elvis down to the station. Sam found him at home, shocked and disbelieving about what was happening. Elvis couldn't believe his song was playing on the radio. When he arrived at the station, he was so nervous that he had to be convinced to go on the air for an interview. During their chat, Dewey, playfully, asked where Elvis had gone to school. The question, seemingly innocent, had a purpose. Many listeners thought the singer was black, and Dewey wanted to clear up the confusion without causing embarrassment. When Elvis replied that he had attended Humes High School, a white school in Memphis, the audience learned the truth. That intense, soulful sound was coming from a young white boy from the South. It was unthinkable for the time. The reaction was immediate.
Young audiences, especially, connected with Elvis's energy. He sang with a physical and emotional intensity that broke conventions. He wasn't restrained or formal, he was spontaneous, vibrant, and provocative. His voice carried a mix of innocence and boldness that embodied the spirit of a new American generation, ready to break free from old traditions. The local success was so great that Sam Phillips rushed to press the first copies of the single. On July 19, 1954, That's All Right was officially released with Blue Moon of Kentucky on the B-side. The record was sent to local radio stations and stores, and within days, Elvis Presley's name was spreading across Tennessee. Live performances followed quickly. Elvis, Scotty, and Bill began playing at small venues and county fairs, and the crowd's reaction was always explosive. Young fans rushed to the stage, women screamed, and the more conservative folks looked suspiciously at that boy who moved his body in ways no one had ever seen before. Elvis's performance was electric, almost instinctive. He didn't choreograph his moves, he just felt the music, and that spontaneity would become his signature.
Within months, the trio went from a local curiosity to a statewide sensation. Sales of the single skyrocketed, and local newspapers began reporting the phenomenon. Sam Phillips, who had struggled to keep his studio afloat, finally held the success he'd been dreaming of. He knew this music wasn't just a hit, it was the birth of a new genre, a sound that blended the roots of the South, the country of the whites, and the blues of the blacks, and for the first time made everyone dance together. For Elvis, the transformation was intense. In just weeks, anonymity disappeared. People recognized him on the street, and show invitations poured in. But more than fame, he felt something different. For the first time, he belonged somewhere. That insecure boy who had once recorded a gift for his mother had now found his voice, his style, and his destiny. Elvis's discovery at Sun Records wasn't an isolated stroke of luck. It was the perfect meeting of Sam Phillips's visionary instinct, Marion Keisker's persistence, and the raw talent of a young man brave enough to sing his own way. When That's All Right played on Memphis radio in July 1954, the world changed its frequency. It was the birth of something bigger than any of them could comprehend at the time. The sound that was born in that small studio would echo for decades, crossing generations and inspiring artists all over the world. And it all began there, in a hot little room, with 3 musicians improvising and a producer who believed that music could break down walls. That night, without a plan, without a script, and without glamour, Elvis Presley wasn't just discovered, he was born as the symbol of a new era, the face of a cultural revolution that would never be silenced. And that's how a shy boy from Memphis, with a guitar in his hands and a dream in his heart, took the first step toward becoming the king of rock. Every note recorded on those Sun Records tapes still echoes today, reminding us that greatness often begins in the simplest places and the most sincere hearts. If this story moved you as much as it moves everyone who loves Elvis, then do this: subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos, and leave your like to show that you're part of this legion of fans keeping the King's memory alive. Comment below what moment touched you the most. Was it the first acetate, the meeting with Sam Phillips, or that magical night when That's All Right first played on the radio? I want to read your thoughts. And don't forget, share this video with other Elvis Presley fans. Let's spread this story so that more people can feel the power of the music and the legacy Elvis left forever in the heart of the world. See you in the next video, and remember, the stage may change, time may pass, but the King's spirit never leaves the spotlight.